Hi, everyone. We'll be getting started in just a moment. Evan, we can see, just an FYI, we can see your Word document. We'll give it just one more moment.
Yep. Okay.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Kansas Len Family Education Series on supported decision making. We appreciate you being here with us this evening and look forward to having an interaction. Any questions that you may have, you can put in the Facebook chat or in the chat button on Zoom if you are in chat. We are going to get started this evening with Steve Gieber from the Kansas Council on Developmental Disabilities. He's going to talk a little bit about the supported decision-making bill that the disability community had advocated for in the legislature over the last couple of years. And with that, we'll let Steve get started.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. I'm really pleased to be here to speak to you about the supported decision-making program. I want to start with House Bill 2343 that was signed into law in July of 2018. And that was the first time we got supported decision-making entered into a statute. And the statute was really about non-discrimination of organ transplants on the basis of disability. After we got that in place, on January 16th of 2019, we introduced House Bill 2034. And I had worked with my representative, Representative Barker, to get a supported decision-making agreement act written out prior to the session starting. And so we were able to get it on the calendar right away and got it passed out of his committee on Fed and State. Then we were able to get it across the hall over to the Senate, and it sat on the Senate calendar for quite some time. And what people don't always know is that we actually run in 2-year cycles. So getting it introduced in 2019 allowed it to stay alive through 2020. And so as the session ended and we didn't get it through in 2019, we felt like we would have a good shot at getting it through on 2020 session. We did work on it, and we did get it into a Senate Judicial Committee, and we got it passed favorably out of that, and only to set on the calendar and be, and for those of you that don't know, the 2020 session, they only passed about 8 bills between the beginning of the session and up to the last day of session. And then on the last day of session, they actually passed more bills than they did through that whole time period. And that's normally not the case. They usually get quite a few bills passed every session. So this was a very unique time. Not only did the COVID-19 affect it, there were other politics, of course, being played as well. And again, 2034, if you look it up, on the last day of session, it was taken as a gut and go, and they actually removed all the language out of it and stuck some other language for another bill in it and got it passed that way. So our plan at this point is to continue to work on it. We've done conferences and presentations, and this is another one where we're trying to get more support from families and individuals with disabilities to help us by providing testimony and support and encouraging your legislators to pass supported decision making. We first started doing presentations on this. I think our first conference was back in 2016, and we were trying to build some grassroots advocacy on it. And at that point in time, we had a meeting in Kansas City. We had 250 people show up for that. We've since held other conferences in El Dorado, Garden City, Salina, as well as some of the work that KU has been doing on conferences as well. And so I think we've gotten the word out there pretty good. We need to continue to build some momentum for this. We plan on introducing this bill again in 2021. We're still working on kind of a strategic plan for how to approach that. And I want to remind people that testimony that comes from individuals and families is always stronger than the testimony that comes from us that testify on a regular basis. Legislators really do like to hear from individuals and families about legislation and how it impacts them. And I would encourage anyone that's listening to us talk about this tonight to reach out to us at some point if you're interested in doing testimony, or at least writing supports testimony. They can be written, or you can show up and hopefully produce it or present it in person if this COVID thing ever goes away. You know, as we're looking at this, I do have some questions and some thoughts that I wanted to visit with people about. Whenever we put that supported decision-making bill together originally, we borrowed from a lot of other states and looked at different things and tried to figure out what was the best way to approach this. And one of the things that we put in there was a limitation that if a person was receiving paid supports from someone, that person couldn't be one of their supported decision-making people. And one of the reasons we did that is we thought that provided some safeguards so that someone wouldn't have too much influence on an individual. As we've looked at that and talked about that, I've been approached by some individuals that that are doing supported decision-making, and they said that some of the people that do provide their paid supports are very capable of being supported decision makers and keeping their position in mind as they're supporting them. And so that's one of those areas that we're thinking about maybe rewriting that section, and I would like to hear what people's thoughts are on that. As we were moving this piece of legislation through, the Attorney General's office did come in and add some language to make it some more significant penalties for if a supported decision-making person supporting someone did violate the law or do something inappropriate, that there would be higher penalties for that. And so I think we may have covered it in that at that point. And so again, I'd like some feedback on that. I'd like some people to give us different ideas on that. And really why we're looking at supported decision-making now is we really are viewing disability as a mismatch between a person's capabilities and the demands of the environment. And so if we really just have that mismatch, then we just need to come up with different ways to support people. We think supported decision-making is a lot less invasive system than guardianship, which requires going to court, costs money. There's all kinds of different things that are created, barriers that are created through that. And we just want to see that people are supported, and that we recognize the capacity of persons to make decisions, and we look at modifying the environment and what are the personalized supports that people need to participate fully in society. And just to give you a little bit of background, as we were researching this, it's kind of hard to get a good handle on how many guardianships we have in Kansas. But one of the resources we were looking at said that we have about 65% of people have full guardianships, and there's only 3% that have a limited guardianship. And so we're really concerned about that, that from state to state, that runs from as low as 5% of people in guardianship up to people having 80% guardianship. So it's really a pretty large continuum. And a limited guardianship allows people to make, the guardian to make fewer decisions. And it's really concerning to us that only 3% of our courts are awarding limited guardianship, when we really think that number should be higher, or the number of full guardianship should be much lower as supported decision-making comes into play. You know, whenever the court decides to put a guardianship in place, it's really, the judge is only looking at the capacity at the time of the court case. And we found cases where people were having short-term issues and ended up with long-term guardianships put in place. And there's really no way for a judge to know whether or not people have good supports in place, or whether the judge knows whether people have good access to services and those kinds of things. And so we really need to treat the legal capacity as something that increases with learning and access to information. And so people can learn to make better decisions. I think all of us have learned how to make good decisions by making some bad decisions. And so I think that's part of the learning process that we all have. And we believe that everybody should have that opportunity to not only make good decisions, but also make poor decisions and learn from them. And I think everybody has a way to express what their wishes are. And I think we just need to figure out how to make sure that we're respecting that and respecting people's ability to make decisions. So what I would encourage people to do, if you want to know more about supported decision-making, or you want to help us get this bill passed next year, go ahead and contact me, and you can contact me at sgieber@kcdd.org, and I'll go ahead and put that in the chat in a couple of minutes, or you can contact the Lend folks here who are putting this on, and they can get you in touch with us as well. And with that, I'll go ahead and close out my few minutes of talking about this important issue, and we'll turn it back to you, Stephanie.
Thanks, Steve. We really appreciate you taking a few minutes to share that information. It's good for families to know. Next up is Dr. Evan Dean and Brad Linnenkamp from the Kansas University Center on Developmental Disabilities. They have been working on some supported decision-making research there, and along with their state partners, one being Steve and the Kansas Council on Developmental Disabilities. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Evan.
Great, thanks, Stephanie. And I also want to say thanks to Steve. We've been pretty close partners lately on this, and it's really been the DD Council that have been creating the momentum and a lot of the interest in driving the process, especially around the bill for supported decision making. So we really appreciate their efforts and have really been enjoying collaborating with them. Sorry, I'm having, there we go. I'm learning how to navigate multiple screens while I'm doing this. Brad Linnenkamp and I are both researchers at the Kansas University Center on Developmental Disabilities. And at KUCDD, as we call it, we have a strong interest and history focused on developing interventions related to and assessments related to support to self-determination. And then recently have been getting into research related to supported decision making, which we see as an important component of the larger self-determination research. So Brad and I, so as Steve and the DD Council have been focusing on the bill and creating momentum and excitement around this, our part has been to really research and develop some effective ways to support families and self-advocates for using supported decision-making. And that's what Brad and I are gonna be talking about. We've spent the last year doing a lot of really in-depth focus work with families and self-advocates to understand how people have been using supported decision-making in their life. and then we've been developing interventions an intervention to support others to learn how to do that, to learn from the people that have been doing it. And so Brad and I are here today to talk a little bit about the research, a little bit about the research we've been doing, and more of giving an overview of what supported decision making is. And Brad has some great examples from his life that he's going to share as we go along. So our plan is that Brad and I are going to talk here for about 20 minutes or so. And after that, we have a panel of family members and self-advocates who have been using supported decision-making to talk about their experiences using supported decision-making, which I think is a even better venue to learn from than listening to me. And so we'll moderate that. But as we're talking and as they're talking, please feel free to type in questions into the chat at any point as we go along. And now we'll start talking about supported decision making. Brad, I don't know if you knew or if you were planning on sharing your video, but it's not shared right now. And you're muted.
There we go.
All right. Just wanted to be sure everybody could hear you. Did you want to share a video, or are you, would you rather not?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So
go ahead, yeah.
Okay, so when we're talking about supported decision making, a kind of definition for what we're talking about is really a process where a person with a disability is enabled or empowered to make and communicate decisions with respect to personal or legal matters. And this definition comes from the United Nations Council on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And that council was really the kind of the body that really got work on supported decision making started in both the US and around the world. Because what the important thing that they did was really state that people with disabilities and everybody really needs support to make decisions. We all use support to make decisions. As I say in these trainings, and I should probably stop saying it, that I'm really bad with money and budgeting my money, and I'm lucky to have a partner that's very good at it. And so she is a support for me in that area to help me figure out when I should be spending money and when I shouldn't. And I think a lot of people are in a similar situation to that. But for me, as someone who doesn't have a disability, that's just considered a part of life that we do that. But for many people with disabilities, what ends up happening when they're have similar experiences that I do is that we remove their legal capacity to make decisions in the form of guardianship. And so what the Council on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities said is that, that process is really the same as anybody, that we all need support to make decisions, and we all have capacity to make decisions with the right amount of supports. As Steve said, we really talk about this as a balance between the person and their abilities and their opportunities and experiences with decision making, with the context, which is really about the demands and the risk of the decision. Some decisions have a higher level of risk, and some have a lower, and some are just more complex. And with the increase in risk and complexity, it increases a need for support for all of us, to have people to talk through things and things like that. So that's a long way of saying with this definition is that I think it's a good definition. I think we can remove the person with a disability because really it's a process whereby we are all enabled and empowered to make and communicate decisions.
Yeah.
And it's the same process that we all use. Did you have something to add to that, Brad?
And I believe that what goes on is things. One of the things I'd like to say is with supported decision making, it's not always set in stone, and so things change along the way, and circumstances come up to where maybe we have to rethink some of the decisions we make and with whom we use to support those decisions, because at one time it may be a certain number of people, but then it might become, like Evan said, it might become a more complex decision, and we might have to bring in some other people, either doctors or other family members or other friends and supports that may have more insight into the type of decision that needs to be made. So it's just one of those things that needs to change as circumstances come about. So it's really
Yeah,
good.
that's a great point. The other thing I'd add to that too is that the more we make decisions, the more we learn how to make decisions. So
Yep.
really by increasing our opportunity to make decisions and not only make decisions, but also reflect on the outcome of those decisions, we learn from those experiences, and that can adjust our supports as we go along too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfectly well there, Joe.
As Steve said, making bad decisions can be a very good teaching tool. It's just how most of us learn a lot about our decision making. But by doing that, then hopefully we make a better decision the next time and learn from them.
As long as we keep learning from the decisions that we make, the bad ones, and not keep doing it over and over again.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
So just a couple of other things to really talk about why we're interested in decision making and why it's such an important thing is that really, as I said, we're really interested in enhancing people's opportunity and supports for exercising self-determination. And making decisions is a key way to increase that for people and a key component of self-determination. And when we talk about self-determination, we're really talking about a personal characteristic. So it's something within all of us that's manifested when we're making or causing things to happen in our life. So we say making or causing things to happen because it's not just about being independent and doing things, but it's about using our supports and our actions to move in the direction that we want to move in, to move closer to our goals.
Correct.
So, there's been years and years of research on self-determination that consistently finds similar things, that people with greater self-determination are healthier, employed more often, they're more well-adjusted, and I think a key thing here, especially with supported decision-making, is that they're better able to recognize and resist abuse. Yeah. So the more we can enhance the decision-making capacity and self-determination capacity, we're actually making people safer by doing it.
Definitely. Yes.
And again, specifically related to supported decision-making, researchers with the National Core Indicators, which is a nationwide survey of adults with intellectual disability, have found that people who do not have a guardian are more likely to have a paid job, to live independently, to have friends other than their paid staff and family, to go on dates and socialize, and to practice the religion of their choice. Yep. So the other key reason for focusing on decision-making is that these are the outcomes we want for everyone, and everyone that we're serving and supporting. So focusing on supported decision-making, and I think is a good way to enhance those outcomes.
Yep.
And kind of related to this, Brad has a lot of experience using supported decision making, and so is going to talk about that.
I have two really good examples of supported decision making that I've used in my life, and I'm just gonna briefly tell you what they are and then why and what types of supports I used in making these decisions. The first one was about 11 years ago. I had an opportunity to go through a low-income housing program for people with disabilities and low income as well, and I needed a place to make accessible for me, and so I went through a program here in Lawrence that allowed me to find a place, and the program I went through, I used a lot of their funds to help modify my current location, making an accessible bathroom, accessible kitchen, widening some doors, and just making it very functional for me. The place where I'm at now used to be a 2-bedroom apartment, and when I first came in to look at it, it was pretty much torn down to the studs, and considering the amount of work that they had to do to make it accessible for me, it's amazing that it's wide open. It's got an open floor plan and stuff like that. And the program, with the money that the housing association that I went through put in, it has allowed me to have a mortgage of about $400 or less a month, and that was from my previous apartment that I was living in. That's about 1/3 the cost of, or not, about half the cost of what I was paying previously. So in that aspect, it was awesome. And the people that I had helping me make decisions are a lot of the same people that I have in my life today that are here to, I could use them as sounding boards. One way that people can make decisions is, you may have an idea in your head about what you want to get done. Like two of the things that I've gotten done is not only being able to afford my own home, but about 6 years ago now, I also purchased my own vehicle so that I could be more able to go out in the community to do activities and to do the things that I really enjoy doing. So basically, when it comes to those decisions, I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted, but the people that supported me were the ones that there were a couple issues about trying to figure out how financially I was going to be able to afford, let's say, the van, because that was more of a, I had to put the payment for, I had to pay for that completely out of my own savings. And so it was just trying to figure out what type of cost I was going to have with repairs and gas and everything that goes along with the vehicle. And so fortunately, I found out that I was able to manage it, and it's been relatively a smooth transition into owning my own vehicle and figuring out what the cost is for my tags and my insurance and all that. But that wasn't as bad as we thought it could be. So in that aspect, happy that it came out the way that it did. So, and most of the time when those are the decisions that I make, usually I have a pretty good idea on what type of decision or what the decision, what I want to do. But I use my supports in a way, kind of like a sounding board, so that if I can bounce ideas off of them and tell them what I'm thinking, and then they'll give me information about what they're hearing, about what I'm saying, and make an informed choice on what we come to talk about. And like Evan said, and a lot of different things with supported decision making, it's not always perfect. We may have to revisit some things later on down the road as either health situations come about, maybe loss of job, maybe things that typically happen in life to begin with. So, but with supported decision making, the best part about it is that it's not set in stone and it can be changed at any time, regardless of what life throws our way. So that's what I have to this point.
Thanks, Brad. I think those are great examples of both how you use people as supports and then also other kinds of programs and things that act as a support for you too. I think that's great.
Awesome.
Can you also talk a little bit, and I know this is different for everybody, and we'll probably hear other examples from our panel, but can you talk a little bit about how you have created your circle of support or how you choose your supporters?
Yeah, I can do that, and this, like I said, it can look different for every person, but how I went around to find my current supports and things is that I'm a very social person. So whenever I'm out and about in the community, and people get to know me and they know who I am, and um, some of my supports are even former coworkers and current coworkers as well. A lot of those are my supports because I've been around them a long time. And then I've also developed some non-paid supports out in the community with people that I've met at different places that I'm out and about in town. And so they follow up with me. I can give you a perfect example. I have a couple people that during this whole COVID thing is I have people that'll bring me meals or check in on me. They'll even run some errands occasionally and things like that. So, and what works for me when I decide on who I want as a support is that for me, one of the biggest things about who I decide about who I want in my life to be around and to support me on a daily basis or whatever that looks like is that I have to have some really good trust with people. I don't have a lot of trust issues with people, but I've had some experiences. This goes back to learning things as we go along. I've had some experiences early on when I started to decide that I was gonna be self-determined and manage my own affairs and all this. I had some experiences with some people that weren't as reliable, and things happened to where I'd hire somebody and for example, I had somebody that I went through another provider to come in and work with me, and she only ended up working with me one day, and then she left and I never heard from her again. And so I found, and then I've also had a few other people that have worked with me that have kind of figured out some of my soft spots and where I got a little weakness. And so they'll take advantage of some of my kindness. And I run into some issues with some financial situations for a little while. But until I recognized that that was a problem, it took me a while to say, okay, I need to make some changes here. So with supported decision making, this is the best part about it, is that you can make changes as you go, as circumstances come up. So there you go.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Brad. And I think you're a good example too of like developing that group of supporters while you're out living your life. Like that's how we all meet people that support us, is by doing the things that we love and working and other things. So that's great.
And that's one of the things that I know, that the people that I have supporting me now, they will stick with me for as long as they can, but you never know, circumstances could come up or they can move away, or things happen that you have to constantly keep looking for other people that hopefully can step in and take over when things happen. So,
Yeah.
and that's why I work so hard to make sure I'm out there and meeting people and that sort of thing.
Great, thanks. And I know we're running short on time for the panel. I did want to highlight just a couple more things briefly. And really, so a lot of this has come out of our research, both in terms of the our background research and the literature, and also this came out strongly in the focus groups that we've done with families and self-advocates, but really thinking about how do we support decision making. And we heard some of this in Brad's story also. So the box over here on the left is about ways that people support others in making decisions. So not by making the decision for the person, but maybe by creating opportunities for decision making, presenting information in an understandable way. So this could, be in a doctor's office, if the doctor's kind of talking over somebody's head, or for me, it's financial things that I don't understand. Identifying alternative actions or options. So kind of thinking through, you could do this, or you could do this, or you could do something else. Maybe helping communicate a decision. And then also, which I think is key to the learning piece of all of this, is to help people evaluate the outcome of a decision, which lots of us need just help talking through what that could be.
Yep.
So I think, as family members and supporters and everybody else, I think it's really important to always kind of keep in the back of our heads, how are we supporting people to make their decisions? And I think it's a process to keep coming up with new ways, so the person is challenged yet supported, but can have the opportunity and develop that capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And then using alternatives to guardianship can also be an important component of that. And I'm sure our panel is going to talk more about these, so I won't spend much time on it. But thinking through, maybe the person does need a whole lot of support related to financial decisions, or the person may decide that they just don't want to make financial decisions, in which case something like a rep payee or something like that may be appropriate as an example. But then the other thing, the thing that I want to leave you with is also thinking about just how to get started with supported decision making.
Yep.
And so, so Brad and I have kind of kicked around some of these ideas about how we can help people get started thinking about it. And in all likelihood, everybody probably is started on this in some way. And I think it's just important to recognize that a lot of the work we're doing as family members and supporters
Yep.
I think Evan froze up here.
Yes, he's been having some issues off and on here.
Yeah. Sean, do you want to help? Where he left off?
Yes, this is Sean Swindler. And one of the things that we really do look at is it's one thing to support someone to make a decision and to be there for them both emotionally and to help interpret things, but it's another to really make sure people have the information they need to make a decision. If you know, as Evan was talking about, if we go to buy a house and we work with our mortgage lender to understand all of the vast intricacies of that, they're taking quite a bit of time to explain to us, and none of us would sign a mortgage without having every detail of that explained to us. And it's the same thing with making sure we're teaching, we're not just, you know, helping people be emotionally supported, but actually supported to know the facts about what they're doing, what they're buying, the decisions that they're making, and how do I break things down into plain language? How do I help them really understand? And that's important, not only because they really do have a right to understand that, but in the future, it's more likely they're going to be able to make that decision with less support and be more confident to do that on their own.
Right.
I'm back, everybody. Sorry about that. But that's a great point, Sean. Thanks. I'm sure I was making great points too, but apparently
Yeah.
they weren't heard. But yeah, we're practicing supporting on this in this meeting too. So.
Yes.
But I think we're probably at the time to turn it over to the panel. Does that make sense, Stephanie?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Evan. Thanks, Sean, for pinch hitting there for Evan for a minute. Our panel tonight consists of a couple of parent duos. There is Tammy Allen and her son Skylar. They will be turning on their cameras, Skylar. And then Jennifer Smith and her daughter Corinne. They're there. Hi, Corinne. Oops, we lost. Sean Swindler is another parent. I'm not sure, he has Isaac. I'm not sure Isaac is with him.
No, Isaac wasn't able to stick around. So
Okay. And then myself, I have my son Matthew. He happens to be away at school, but that's your panel for this evening. So if we want to get started, we'll start with Tammy and Skylar. If you want to take just a few minutes to introduce yourselves and talk about how you use supported decision making in your lives, that would be great.
Okay. My name's Tammy Allen, and I'm the co-executive director for Families Together here in Wichita. I'm hearing an echo. I don't know if that's me. And Skylar is obviously my son. We have been lucky enough to start with a type of supported decision making since Skylar was a little boy, because he was always one that we started teaching him advocacy very young, you know, when to get on to ask for help to get on the merry-go-round and those things. But he was always very inquisitive about the decisions when we would talk about this is what you need to do. He always wanted to know why do I need to do that? And so once we explained the process of, this is why you need to do this. And then he would sometimes come up with another explanation and want to do it this way. So we've been lucky enough to been using supported decision-making for a lot of years. In a lot of it was just simple choices. He does live on his own, lives independently, and works and self-directs all of his support services. So it was very important to him that he did self-direct his services. And he did not, he wanted to choose who would work for him and what the day would look like, and not be a part of a group that everybody went and did it this way. So from the very beginning, he was always wanting to make his own choices and decisions. So we've kind of found that he had 2 younger sisters. We kind of use that with them. You know, you can clean your room now or you can clean it later. And so that was kind of how we started working with Skylar. And I think, and he'll talk a little bit about some of the ways he's used it. I think the most recent way that we've actually used that is moving him from living in Garden City for over 30 years to moving here to Wichita, where I moved to. So we used a lot of that for him to make that decision as to moving. Does he want to move? Where did he want to move? What kind of life did he want to live here? Where did he want to live? And then he had a team back there in Garden City that supported him in those decisions while I was here in Wichita. So he's been using supported decision-making to, we had to find a new managed care organization, a new care provider, new direct support workers. We've started working with VR on employment. So we've had to start over on a lot of things. So he has used his case manager in many different areas and of his life, but I'll let him talk about how he uses that. He chooses people that he trusts, and you know, I do certain things for him, like his health care. Then there's some choices like spending his money that he really doesn't want his mom to be a part of, because that's a mom thing. And you know, so I think it's very important as we do that, you know, we don't impress our own personal opinion upon him, but we help him come up with that conclusion. So I'm gonna let Skylar talk a little bit about kind of how he uses supported decision-making. Skylar, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I use decision making on pretty much anything, everything. From moving uphill, it was kind of scary, and it still is in a way, because with this pandemic, one day to another, you don't know what's going to happen or what decisions you make. But the way I make decisions now is I kind of look ahead a little bit. And what I mean by that is, if I make this, what would it be like if I make this? So decision, if I make this decision, what would my life would be like? So with my healthcare, my mom makes my decisions. I mean, she helps me through them. And so and then looking for another PA person that worked for me. We've been searching, and I went to my new case manager here, and she's nice, and I'm still learning the ropes and how to navigate the system here. And so I had to talk to her about firing, and she said it's your decision. So, and then I have people, have a person in mind. She, but she's been under the weather for a while. So hopefully next week I will get to meet them. And I just with course buying stuff and feeling I have my mom for help. She kind of explained to me what health wise and what to suggest. And so I kind of look a little bit ahead, saying what I need or what I really don't need. So I, with my therapy dog now, BB, I had to put my nail one down and because she got sick, so they helped me with that, and that was very tough for me because I wasn't for sure, but I just didn't want her to suffer, so I made that decision. So, and so, like I have my people help me buy food or whatnot. And so that's been close. I get those mom's meals every week. So that helps, but I still need some help with groceries because there's some stuff I don't really need that I buy because I probably has and some salt, or sometimes I forget to just get stuff and down the line isn't like, oh, I should have bought that because I just have one or two left. And so, and with the dog food, I buy those big bags just because I don't want to put, if it's down a whole lot, I go out and buy one, but if it's half full, I won't, just because I had one incident from it, and I say, no, I'm not gonna buy the small bags anymore, just so I don't have to panic that she will have the food that she needs. And so I'm not for sure.
Thank you.
Well, Skylar, I have to tell you, I forget things at the grocery store all the time, and don't even get me started about all the stuff I get that I don't need. So you're in good company.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because
Yeah.
I don't feel quite as bad anymore.
Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. We are going to move to little Miss Corinne and her mom, Jennifer, and they're going to introduce themselves and how they use supported decision making. And I did put you on mute, so you'll have to unmute yourself.
Okay. Hi, I've been working on some drawings, and they help me communicate.
So, hello everyone. I'm Jennifer. One of the things that we started with Corinne when she was very little was that Corinne communicated through her artwork, through drawing. And she's going to probably show some pictures throughout our little conversation here. Here's a new one she just did with the Powerpuff Girls. So I need to get her a job with Cartoon Network. But okay.
But I already have a job.
I know. That's great.
I'm an artist.
So what we did was, I don't know why I'm saying we, but me, was really evaluate her strengths. And of course, drawing was the best way to communicate for her. She was able to also transition that to her actually gen ed teachers in high school, because they could see what she was doing, not able to really write a full like book report or something to that extent. So the teacher started to modify how Corinne was doing her book reports, and they were by her art. She could tell a whole story in a picture. And several of the gen ed teachers said, hey, let's try that with some of our other students and classes. This one world history teacher changed the whole concept of how the students were going to be presenting their reports and everything, and all the students got A's in the classroom. So it was through that we started to really realize that Corinne and her passion through art and through communication is what we need to focus on for her career. Because when you're in high school, or what are you going to be when you grow up, or even when you're in elementary or you're a child, what are you going to be when you grow up? I mean, neurotypical people have a hard time sometimes figuring that out. And many times our loved ones with autism, they know, but they're also not given the supports to do that. So several of the things that we did was look at her strengths, which of course was art. Well, she's also extremely social. She did inherit quite a few genes and traits from me with being a go-getter and very determined to work. So we created what you needed to do to have a business. So of course, knowing how to money handle. So we worked on that very early, of how to manage money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? How to count back change,
Mm-hmm.
how to identify what money is, and how not to give things away, right? Yeah, so everything is, yeah. So mom likes to give stuff away, and Corinne's like, that costs money. So I have to pay her when I give something away. But, and that's by all right. You can't just give stuff away, because you worked hard for it and you deserve to be recognized and you deserve to be paid. Hence why individuals that work in a corporate office or any type of corporate business or small business, they deserve to be paid the same wage as everyone else, because they are doing a job and they should deserve to get paid. So money handling is what we worked on. We also worked on supplies. So such as how to promote yourself. And we worked on what, business cards?
Yeah.
How?
I have lots of business cards.
And marketing yourself. So when we market ourselves, we go to comic book Comic-Cons.
Yeah, Comic-Con.
And then we create our own little
I create my own stand so I can set up my artwork for people to purchase.
Right. So knowing a business and understanding a business. So that was a lot of what we worked on, and listening to what she wanted to do and how do we get to that point. And there were many times when we started doing this, I had to sit with her. Now I don't have to sit with her at all because she's got it under control and she knows. And if she does have questions, I'm not too far away. She can holler at me or just stop that person and then get me or whatever if there's questions. But 9 times out of 10, this girl can handle it on her own because she was given the tools to do these things, to have her own business in a sense. But having an own business also means you need to be able to have a bank account. So she does have her own bank account. We are going to be working on getting the retail license that she has to have now because I know, yeah, I got to pay those taxes. So it's time, it was more of a hobby and now it is a full-fledged business. So we will have to do the retail licensing and we will need to make sure she has all her ducks in a row for that. I myself have a little pie business, so I had to find out all those things as well when you're working with the state or local level of those. So those are things that we're now our next level. One of the other things, I'm talking about a different way on the self-determination because supportive decision-making in more of the business sense and what we are doing in the community. So one of the other things that we work on is we have a scholarship fund that was established the year after Corinne graduated from Gardner Edgerton, because there were not a lot of scholarships in our school district that supported individuals with disabilities. And we wanted to make sure that was recognized. So we started the Yes, I Can Scholarship Fund, which is outright saying to an individual, yes, you can do things. Yes, you can get the support and the help that you need in your next level after you get out of high school. And what that looks like is for each individual is different. So that is just a little nugget of what we are trying to continue through our school district with helping those individuals that are taking the next step in their own life of what they need for supports or funding for those supports. So that's why we created this scholarship fund to help those individuals in that aspect. But one of the things that Evan was talking about earlier was the trust factor. And that is so important to make sure whenever you are starting all this is that you do have someone that you can trust. I know many times I have had individuals in my home when the kids were younger. Corinne also has a brother, Cameron, who has autism. He's younger. He works at Walgreens and has worked there 4 years paid, 6 years volunteer through the school district. So he's now been at Walgreens for 10 years and he's doing very well. But I digress in a second. But the one thing that we were having problems in our home was we were having support staff take advantage of the kids. We had some steal their money. We had them steal games. They left them in a hot car when they were little. So you really have to make sure that people that work for you are there to support you and not have their own agenda, because they're in your home, you're their boss. And as Corinne is my boss and Cameron is my boss too. So I have to respect them whenever I work for them and help support them in what they want to do. I can also navigate to make sure that they're making those right choices. But that was something that a parent is hard sometimes to do, is to take off the parent hat and be the support and be there to help them make those decisions, right? And, you know, many times they want to go and do things. Unfortunately, through COVID, that's been hard, but I work for them and I have to go do it. And so that as a parent has been tough. Cameron, do you want to say hi? Hey, he said, hey. But so with that, I know I don't want to take up too much time, but Corinne, how do you feel about?
Cameron, do not interrupt.
So sorry, it's Wheel of Fortune just got over with, so he's decided to come see us. Stop, Corinne. So anyway, Corinne, what can you tell others about making decisions for your own personal self? Like, how do you make a decision?
I make decisions by having ideas for a new drawing.
Right, but for life.
I'll have my own business.
Okay.
I'll start my own business, and I'll get every artwork, such as my drawings and my calendars, my bookmarks, and even my cards.
Okay, so she's very focused on her business. But you know, we're also with life. So who do you have around you that can help support you? Do you have?
I have you.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have my aunt. Then I have my Uncle Dan, Uncle Roger, and Aunt Mary and Aunt Lori to help.
And then you have your.
I have my case manager.
That's right.
And I have my neighbors to help out.
Right. So, so we do also have set up financially. In a sense, we have a trust set up as well. I am her guardian, but she still makes the decisions. I think that's very important as a parent, to support them in their decisions and make sure. I think this is also just a normal thing for a parent, is to make sure they make life choices that are safe and that are important to them and that are financially sound. And I think that's for everyone. And then on the medical side of it is that I do, of course, go to all her appointments. Many times she has a hard time explaining things to the doctor, so we talk about those prior to the appointment, so she's able to discuss it and sometimes have little notes. But you know, it's an everyday thing that we work on, and not to beat ourselves up, and learn from mistakes and learn from trial and error. So it's something that I think is going to be constantly evolving.
Thanks, Jennifer. And Corinne, thanks for showing your artwork. Do you have another one you want to show us real quick? Wow, did you do that one today?
I did that day. I did it a couple of days ago.
Well, it looks great. Sean Swindler is up next. He's going to give a quick little overview of how he and Isaac use supported decision making.
Yeah, and I would have loved Isaac to join us. His Zoom time has expired for the day, and he was not able to sit still to be here to be with us. Already had some challenges being on Zoom all day for school stuff. So for Isaac, what I really want to emphasize is that Isaac is 19. He has autism and an intellectual disability. He's on the waiting list for the DD waiver, and he's also his own guardian. And we've been very clear that we want him to be his own guardian. We're going to use supported decision making formally when it becomes a law. We use it informally now. And if we have, the one thing we've done is he has a rep payee for his Social Security, because Isaac does not understand money, saving money or handling money. And so he really does need that support. We actually experimented before he had Social Security. He did work for a while, and we made a deal with him that he would keep half the money he earns, he's going to put in savings, and half he can spend. And he lost that job, and then he really wanted to spend that other money. We didn't keep him from doing it. He earned the money. He spent through that money really quickly, and then had nothing to show for the several months of work that he did, which was not only a life lesson for him, but also a lesson for us, that regardless of what we did to help him budget, he really did need that other bit of oversight. But he is his own guardian. He turned 18 in January of the senior year of high school. I got permission slips from school for him for the next year after he turned 18, and it continually blew their mind that he was his own guardian. One of the best examples I have of the impact of that is that one of his preferred methods when he really wants to escape something is to elope. And he was not very happy with something during the day at the first part of his 18 to 21 program. And so he decided to elope and take off and go into the neighborhoods. And the school called and said, we're going to call the police. They're going to have to go apprehend him. We can't let him go out. And I said, well, why? He's his own guardian. He can be in the neighborhood. I don't prefer him to be doing that, but I know that if he's chased, if he encounters law enforcement, I'll let him take his chances. I'll come by, try to figure out where he is at, and we'll do it that way. And ended up getting him on the phone. He came back, everything was fine. But the point is that his being his own guardian empowered me as his parent to protect him and to help him be independent at the time when he really needed some independence. Because I knew that if he were just walking on his own, he'd be doing a lot better than if he felt like he was being chased or he was being tried to brought in, because he's very independent like that. An example of his independence, he gets really upset if I say you have school today. He's in the 18 to 21 program, and he says, it's not school, it's a jobs program. I'm done with school. So he really, as part of that being a part of that 18 to 21 program, is his way of exerting his independence. And we really are designing his program through 18 to 21 with the school district so that it does meet his needs. They've started off wanting to do a couple hours of independent living classwork with him and to sit on a computer and do a curriculum. He absolutely didn't want to do that. That's not what he does well. And so we redesigned the program so it's something he wanted to do, and he got something out of it. One of the things that happened as a result of that is that he's very social and he likes to be around people. He ended up volunteering through school at a lot of the at different nursing homes and doing an absolutely wonderful job, to the point that that's really a career direction for him. He's very skilled at helping people and being kind to people and talking to people who are different, all of those kinds of things. And our challenge with that is last March, the van dropped him off in front of his nursing home and they said, whoops, you can't come in. And he hasn't been back since. And there's probably not going to be a placement for an opportunity, for a career opportunity there for the next year or two. And so we've had to refocus and reshift what we're doing, but that's all very much being driven by his preferences and listening to what he wants to do, both career-wise and how he wants to spend his day. And really, I know that there are all sorts of things that could happen. He could walk into a store and try to buy something that he doesn't have the money for. He could easily be taken advantage of by somebody who, if they were friendly to him and knew him, got to know him a few times, another student or somebody he runs into in the community could say, hey, why don't you bring me $20? And he'd probably do it. He sometimes doesn't understand how to handle unexpected situations. We know that. But I know that guardianship isn't the solution to any of those problems. He's still going to have unexpected solutions. He's still going to be taken advantage of, possibly because I'm not there with them all the time, nor do I want to be. And my view is that I would rather pay whatever money it costs, the few dozens or hundreds of dollars that he might lose because he's taken advantage of by somebody as a price of his independence, than to be the person who lords over that and prevents him from growing as a person and having that independence where I don't have to be with him all the time. Because he very much does not like, if we're in a store together, he does not like me supervising him. He wants me to go somewhere else where he can't see me sometimes. All of that is just his demanding his independence. And I want to respect that, because that's actually a very positive quality.
Thanks, Sean. For those who may not know me, I am Stephanie Coleman, and I'm going to try to make this quick because I know in just a couple of moments a football game is about to get started in Kansas City, and we're probably going to lose people on Facebook and around here. So stick with us. We're only got 15 more minutes, but I am Matthew John's mother, and I happen to be his guardian. I am his guardian because at 18, he was a senior in high school, and his teachers scared me by saying, hey, well, we don't have to talk to you anymore. The only way we can talk to you is if you're going to be his guardian. So I didn't know any different. I didn't know any other alternatives. So I went and got guardianship for him. Matthew is 25. He's on the autism spectrum. And currently he's not here with me tonight because he is away at college in Arkansas working on a bachelor's degree for communication. He hopes to one day be a cameraman for our Kansas City Royals. Woohoo! So hopefully put a plug in there and get him a job there at some point. But we've always practiced supported decision making. I didn't realize at the time that we're practicing supported decision making, just like all of you. We've always practiced supported decision making and not realized it. How many times do you ask your child when they're young, what movie do you want to watch? What shirt do you want to wear? That's supported decision making. And we need to realize that we're doing it right from a young age. So when they turn 18 and someone says guardianship, you can say, no, I don't need guardianship because we've been doing supported decision. He's made great decisions up until this point. Yeah, he's made some bad ones, but so have I. So that's one important piece that I want to share with that from my story. And then also he has been making some great decisions while he's at school. And it's my expectation and plan is when he graduates from college, I will go back to the court and petition the court for removal of guardianship so that he can be his own guardian again. Currently, I am his co-guardian with my mother. So if something happened to me, she would be able to step in. But I worry about in the future, let's say in 20 years, everybody who I had planned to be his guardian, if somebody else was gone, is gone, then the state can make that decision and just put a guardian in, and it could be anybody. It doesn't have to be somebody I know. And that worries me because what if that person doesn't agree with what Matthew chooses to do? That person could keep Matthew from making those choices. So it's really important for me to, like I said, when he's done with school, is to go out and plan to go to the courts. I've been told it's not going to be easy because I've already gone to the courts once and said he's incapacitated and can't make his own decisions. So I'm going to have to show that he obviously did very well in school and he can make his own decisions. So I'm going to leave it there so that we can get to some of these questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Evan.
Sure, and if anybody in the audience has questions and wants to put them in the chat, I can come up with questions, but would
Evan,
rather...
we did have one, and it's more for Steve. And let me find this because it came directly to me. They wanted to know, oh, that was my response. Their new to learning about supported decision-making and wanted to get clarification on what the bill that Steve discussed is working on would achieve. And then they said, isn't supported decision-making already allowed and happening in Kansas? So if you can kind of just talk to that bill. If Steve is still with us, I know he has internet connections sometimes too.
Yeah.
Sean, do you want to kind of step up on that?
Yeah, well, what you definitely can do supported decision-making without a bill. We've heard from people tonight, Brad and Skylar and Corinne, who use supported decision-making now. But what that does is it codifies it legally so that I can enter into a formal, very easy to draw up supported decision-making agreement with somebody that I choose, say somebody who to help me make my financial or my medical decisions. So if I go into the bank or I go into a doctor's office with my supporter, I have this supported decision-making agreement that they need to legally respect. Now, most banks and most doctors' offices are probably going to be fairly sensitive, and they're going to want to help people do things the right way and have somebody in there. But it does help you overcome some of those barriers for privacy laws, HIPAA, things like that, to have that person in the room helping you make that decision. And so it just simply gives a legal framework for doing that. The other thing that it does is it does offer some protection. So if I do enter into a formal supported decision-making agreement for somebody on my finances and they take advantage of me, there will be some ways there will be some remedies where that may not exist right now.
Just to jump in, someone on the Facebook page asked, how is that different than power of attorney?
It's different because power of attorney, I am giving somebody else, the person I'm giving my power of attorney to, the right to make decisions on my behalf. Let's say if I'm incapacitated for a medical situation, or if I'm giving somebody a power of attorney to make decisions on my behalf on financial matters. This doesn't give anybody the right to make decisions for me. This gives me the right to say, I want this person in the room to help me make decisions, but the final decision making on whether I buy a car, buy a house, get a medical procedure is with me, the person. And I've just had this person able to support me to decide what to do with that. So it's very different because it doesn't remove the rights from that person with a disability. The other important thing the bill does is it gives an actual legal alternative to guardianship or powers of attorney. So if you think of a hierarchy, right now, pretty much a lot of people with disabilities, it's all or nothing. It's killing a fly with a sledgehammer by people getting guardianship when they don't really need that full guardianship. This is the first step of, I think this person can be independent, can maintain all of their rights, and we're just going to put this person's choosing to put these things in place because they know they want supports in place for them to do these things financially, medically, make decisions in other areas.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. The other thing I was just going to add is that a lot of the supported decision-making documents and everything are really clear on the document that I am the person making the decision. My supporter helps me in specific ways, usually by providing options, helping locate information, and communicating the decision. The three main ways, I think.
There was also a question for Skylar about how you get support hiring and firing PA staff.
To hire and fire PA staff?
Yeah.
Well, I talked to my mom and my case manager when I filed my staff, make sure I will get what I need and stuff. Can you take this, Mom?
Yeah,
I'm
and
having a hard time.
Skylar is his own guardian too. I mean, guardianship for him was not an option. I mean, it was something we never even talked about. And Skylar likes to bounce things off. So when he fired his last PA, he talked about what if I fire him now, or should I wait? And so those were conversations that he had with me, and he called his case manager over. And so she said, if you fire him now, this is what will happen. And if you continue or you wait. And so he made that decision. Now hiring staff, I kind of put the word out. I get the information about the staff person. I talk to them. Skylar talks to them on the phone, and then they meet up together and they talk about what their plans might be, and what the schedule might be. And then Skylar then talks to me again, or his case manager, about how he feels, and then he makes that decision. So I think it's just important that the people get to know Skylar, and I'm not always that person in the middle, or the case manager is not always that person in the middle, but he meets them and talks to them, and then he makes that decision himself. I hope that answered the question.
Evan, I think we might have time for one more, but it looks like you might have froze up again. So I'm just gonna look to see. So making decisions can be risky. That is, you don't always know the outcome of the decision. How do you balance letting your child, this is for Tammy, Jennifer, and Sean, how do you balance letting your child take risks with also keeping them safe? And this will probably just be like a 30-second answer. Okay. Sorry, because we're running out of time.
Skylar has taken risks. He has been taken advantage of financially. The main thing that we have learned is he knows that we also do the same thing, but we also turn that into a learning opportunity for him, so that he knows next time that, these are some things that we probably need to have more conversation about. But I think it's very, very important that we allow our kids to make mistakes and take risks. Now, if it's based on something that's going to be significant, then I think that is time when we really spend a lot more time in conversation. But we have to, it's put ourselves in their shoes.
Yeah.
Jennifer?
And I actually do role playing just because of what's going on in our society today. And I know we don't have a lot to talk about, but when there's issues with police or businesses, and if you're in a store and you're having a meltdown in the store and people don't understand it, where do you go? What do you do? So we do role playing in a sense of how, if we're doing this, and then how do we get to this if somebody's not around? I think that's very important to also understand that with supported decisions is also what actions that you take might get you into trouble as well, and not having, say, if you're arrested or taking in and you don't know how to handle that. So those are other things to talk about, but I really look 5 steps ahead in what's happening to protect them, and make sure they're safe, and that what they know they're doing is right and smart and safe.
Thanks.
I agree with Jennifer. But when you evaluate risk, what's the ultimate risk? Isaac is 6'7" and 260 pounds.
Yeah.
And when he has a meltdown, it looks scary, even though he wouldn't hurt a fly. To me, the ultimate risk is he has an encounter in the community that leads to some really dire consequences. Everything else, if he goes to the store and loses his wallet, or he gives somebody $20 for a $2 candy bar, or if he makes a poor choice in signing up for a clear class that he doesn't like, all of those are almost insignificant and their learning opportunities. I'm concerned about that big one, which is keeping him safe in the community so he can be a part of the community and doing all those things Jennifer talks about doing. Everything else I'm not as concerned about. He'll learn, he'll grow, money can be replaced. He's not going to go to the casino and lose $40,000 or something. So, you know, so we can, you know, I think we can be, those are the kind of things.
And I would agree myself. You know, I've kind of not just role played, but talked about anything that could possibly happen, but you're never going to cover anything.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing is always being there and open and talking to your children now so that they will always feel like they can come back and talk to you about anything and everything. Of course, they're not always going to, but leave that door open for them. So that kind of runs down the time. I want to say thank you to all of our presenters, Steve and Evan. I know we lost Evan and Brad, and then our panelists, Tammy and Skylar and Corinne and Jennifer and Sean. We appreciate you all taking your time tonight, and just want to put a plug in. October 8th, we will be talking about advocacy. We'll be talking about what we as disability advocates and parents can do once the legislature goes back in session in January. We're going to talk about voting rights, and then we're also going to talk about telling your story and how to tell your story. We are going to have somebody from Families Together, Tammy's co-executive director, who's going to help talk to us about how to tell your story, because it's an important one to tell. So we appreciate everybody. Thank you for joining us and staying. I know the game's been playing for 10 minutes, so go out there. I have a hard time saying this, but I will say it for my friends. Go Chiefs. And everybody have a great night, and thanks for joining us.